the only way the notes I have for Mercedes here were that they failed to capitalize on a number of opportunities. They were slow to swap drivers. They were slow in the pit stops, just slow to react in general. I know I've sort of pinned those down into a little bit of a cliff notes, but can you expand maybe on that? And if not, can you do you disagree at all?
No, don't disagree at all. And yeah, I was going to add slow to re-sign their drivers for the future as well, and in particular George Russell. I alluded to earlier that Russell felt aggrieved by what happened at turn one on the opening lap. That he pretty much lost the majority of his race there because I think it was three positions that he dropped with the cars ahead, and then from there trying to recover was difficult. You had Antonelli ahead of him who the driver behind is always going to think that they're much quicker, but we saw them swap the positions, but it took a while for the team to get around to doing that, which, when you think in F1 terms, the time is so precious and you can't be giving away tenths of a second here and there. So whether that they have to go back and review whether that was where they cost themselves a chance to get ahead of Antonelli, sorry, Behrman at that point. But then, yeah, both ending up going on to that two-stop strategy as well. We saw Antonelli react to Piastri coming in, but then they had the slow pit stop, which allowed Piastri ahead. And then ultimately, Piastri was able to round up Russell, and then Mercedes decided pretty quickly from there to hand the position back to Antonelli. So, I didn't think Mercedes would be particularly competitive this weekend, given the conditions. We know they struggle in the warmth, but then, being at that high altitude, it does equalize performance a little bit there. They definitely should have had at least one car in the top five, if not both. So, we don't see Mercedes make, operational errors like this too often. But yeah, I think the way Russell sounded after the race sounded like he was more upset with turn one, but again, he might be playing the team game there and not wanting to hang his team out to dry too much. But yeah, it could have been managed a lot better. But a rare moment too that we've seen Antonelli finish ahead of Russell.
Yeah, you got to take wins when you get them, and obviously Antonelli did super well. I think that mostly came from the start where Antonelli just slipped ahead, but ultimately he was still managed to maintain that pace. The thing about it for me is, I think the biggest thing is that George Russell seems to have had this sort of quiet, um, sort of measured approach to the entire season. Going for the consistency but and sort of the calmness that comes with that. But he really seemed to get sort of hot under the collar. So, I think that really is maybe I think that points to him playing the team game, particularly in the interviews afterwards, because it was so very sarcastic and dry in his delivery of those team radio messages. Whether when he was asking to swap the positions, and maybe those 5 laps that they waited to even try doing that might have made the difference.